everyone. Welcome. We are so delighted to have you join our Where ACE Takes You event tonight with a specific focus on education policy and leadership. And we have some wonderful ACE graduates who are joining us from across the country to share their experiences. Just want to give you a little bit of a sense for our framework. Our panel will share a little bit about themselves, their ACE experiences, and what they're up to now. I'll offer just a few questions to get our conversation going, and then we will open it up to all of you for some live Q&A. And when we get to that point in the program, I'll share just some instructions and the best way to share your questions with the panel. One other thing that I'll mention, it will be really helpful to keep your screen in speaker view, and you can do that by switching the icon in the top right-hand corner of your Zoom window. So feel free to take advantage of that so you can see all of our panelists as they share their insights. The other thing I'll mention too, it will be really helpful just to remain muted until we get to the live Q&A portion. So with that, I will turn things over to our panel. So first, just invite you to share a little bit about yourself, your ACE experience, and what you're currently up to. Kelly, would you mind kicking us off, and then other people can kind of jump in to share after?
Sure, Bridget. Yeah, thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Kelly Griffith Bell. Actually, I just got married to a former ACER as well, so I guess I'm part of that statistic now. But yeah, I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I went to Notre Dame for undergrad and majored in political science and education, schooling, and society. And I was placed in ACE Brownsville. So for those of you who are not too aware where Brownsville is, I wasn't when I got placed there. It's on the U.S.-Mexico border. So my school was very close to the border crossing there. It was a free tuition Catholic middle school. And I had just a wonderful experience. I'm sure we'll talk more about it later. Afterwards, I moved to Washington, D.C., where I taught at an all-girls Catholic high school and coached there as well. And now I'm a principal at a K through 8 school in Philadelphia.
I'll go ahead and jump in there. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So glad to have you all join us tonight. I'm Michael Mossy. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and have actually lived here since my ACE experience. So I'm originally from Colorado. I did go to Notre Dame as well for undergrad. I majored in political science and pre-med. And then along the way, I had some ACE professors in my undergrad experience who convinced me to go ahead and apply to ACE. So I applied and they placed me down in Jacksonville, Florida, teaching middle school math and science at St. Paul's Catholic School in the Riverside neighborhood. And I've loved it here ever since. And the minute I was done with ACE, they had convinced me to sign up for yet another Notre Dame program. And so I joined the Marianne Remick Leadership Program and was part of their 15th cohort. I finished that program and became a principal of another Catholic school here in Jacksonville at San Juan del Rio. I am in my 4th year as principal at that school now, and certainly the most challenging year, as I'm sure many of you can imagine. But look forward to digging into more about my experience with you all tonight.
I could go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Sheara. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, went to Notre Dame undergrad, and then did ACE also in Jacksonville, Florida. Not at the same time as Michael, but got to know him from being down there, which was delightful. I taught high school English, mainly to freshmen and sophomores, but also a handful of juniors and seniors in another class. And I am currently working in DC at the American Enterprise Institute, which is a think tank based in DC, working for their education policy team, doing education policy research.
Hi, everyone. I'll jump in. My name is Bobby Sylvester, and I am a regional director with Empower Illinois. And previously, from Massachusetts, grew up in Massachusetts, and went to the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. undergrad, studied political science, and then joined ACE for 2 years, taught at an elementary school abroad for a year, and then ended up joining Empower Illinois, and we do scholarship granting. So we are a scholarship granting organization in the state of Illinois, and we support kids going to Catholic schools.
Great. Thank you all so much for sharing a little bit about yourselves. To start off our conversation, want to focus specifically on your path to ACE. Quite many students will often ask that question of why did you say yes to ACE to begin with? So I'll pose that same question to each of you. Maybe you could share a little bit about what that discernment to the 2 years looked like, and maybe what was helpful along the way.
I can start us off. One of the big things that helped me discern ACE, well, two big things for me. One was just a profound appreciation for the education I'd been given. I've gone to Catholic school all my life, so that's like 21, 22 years, something like that now after ACE. And was always so grateful for not only the knowledge and the skills that I learned from my teachers, but for the worldview which they helped shape in me. And through taking some classes at Notre Dame, I was a classics major, so I studied ancient Greek and Latin, and also I was a philosophy minor, but I did a lot of political science classes as well, and took one on political philosophy and education, and realized just how much of a role education has in shaping people's worldviews, particularly in shaping their civic engagement and how they engage with the world in that way, which really ignited a fire in me to kind of look at, well, what about those students who don't necessarily have the opportunities that I was given to have their worldview shaped by a good education? So that was kind of the one strain running through there, just a deep appreciation for education and a desire to give back. And then on the other hand, when I was at Notre Dame, I had the privilege of working in the ACE office, and just being around the people who had done ACE and having mentors and friends in my life who had gone through the ACE program. It was so easy to look at them and see the joy and purpose that animated their lives every day, and to say, I want to be a part of that. So for me, ACE was an easy choice in saying, like, yes, I want to commit to this mission, and also I want to be a part of this community and to be formed in the way that these people have been formed, with the same convictions as these people whom I respect and admire so much, and have not been disappointed.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Tracy. I think I have some similarities and some differences. Uh, from the time I was little, I wanted to be a doctor, and I was set on that path, and no one was going to tell me otherwise. Teaching was like the farthest thing from my mind. And I was in a senior leadership class my junior year at Notre Dame, and the professor had invited the general counselor of the university, Marianne Core, to speak to us. And she shared a verse from a book, and I don't know exactly the book, but I do remember the quote. It was, "Beware in life the deadly clear path." And it really kind of shook me a little, of like, oh my, I've always wanted to be a doctor, and here I am trying to figure out if I want to study for the MCATs in my junior year, and do I really want to go down that path? And so it caused me to discern a lot of kind of where I was being called and why I wanted to be a doctor. And a lot was care and concern for other people. And I always thought the only way you could really help others was to heal them physically. So I think that was my calling, to be a doctor. But as I kind of discerned and kind of went into senior year not knowing what I was going to do, I had taken a lot of my political science classes in education policy. And this is where I think it's similar to Tracy. I got to know a lot of the ACE professors, a lot of the people that worked in the ACE building, and some of my older friends had gone and done ACE. And I said, these are the people I want to surround myself, these people who just love unending, and have like these hearts that just don't stop loving other people. I said that's what I want to surround myself with. I don't know if I want to teach, but I want to surround myself with those type of people that give so much of themselves to other people. And so I went out to lunch with one of the professors, and I'll keep his name out of it, but he turned to me at one point and said, "Just apply." And he may have used some more explicit language with me at that point, but he said, "Just apply and see where it goes." And I'm so grateful that I took his advice. I went home that night and applied for ACE. I got into ACE, and it's really changed me for the better. And I just love kind of where I'm at and where it's taken me. So that's really kind of what got me into ACE was totally out of nowhere, really.
I can hop in here. So I actually, as I had mentioned, was a political science major at Notre Dame. I had actually planned to go into national security. So um, I, for whatever reason, always had just been really drawn to that topic, and I had been interning at the Pentagon, and it was like my dream internship. I was very excited about it. And every day I woke up and I just said, like, you know what, I don't really like doing this. Like, it was great. I actually said in my ACE interview, I think I was the only person to have worn cheetah heels in the Pentagon. But it just really didn't, I just didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't wake up feeling a sense of joy or purpose every morning. And I think part of me was so stubborn that I was like, no, this was my plan. This was my path. I can't give it up. I just have to keep pushing and trying to figure it out. But you know, it was a number of things. I think I'd always kind of felt called, like Tracy said, to Catholic education specifically. And in addition to that, just the people that I knew that did ACE, I happened to be a lot of people I was friends with that I really admired or looked up to in my undergrad experience at Notre Dame. And I ended up applying. I didn't really have any sort of like come to Jesus story to share with you all. I just applied as an intern and was an intern my senior year. And it only got better from there. I think when I was finally open to saying, like, this is where God is calling me, it's not what I really anticipated or what I had wanted, but I had kind of a few moments along the way, whether it was, you know, working with kids in a youth mental health institution and kind of thinking about like using my public policy, like political science mindset of like what are the structures that kind of brought these kids to this situation. It was a super it was an at-risk population that I was working with, and I just kind of wanted to understand why, like what kind of what could be solutions also. So I think part of me was just kind of curious about the education system more broadly. Yes, ACE is in Catholic schools, but you learn so much about our school system in ACE. And also, you know, I think there's nothing better than practical experience. I know someone like Tracy now, she works in policy, but I'm sure you know, having that actual tangible hands-on experience in the classroom, there's nothing better that you could do to be a good policymaker down the line as well.
Going off of that, you know, my decision to get to ACE was actually really really difficult. It's something that you know, looking back, it's kind of curious how it happened. So I was at the Catholic University of America. I was political science, working on the Hill, working in political campaigns. I also have great interest in China and the Chinese language. I actually took my whole junior year and studied abroad in China. And that's when I actually really started researching ACE. And the reason I researched ACE was I was really close to one of the campus ministers. They had kind of like the flyers for it. And I was like, that sounds interesting. So my senior year, I was looking for an experience. I wanted something that was going to be worthwhile and challenging and different. And so I applied for a host of things because I was my greatest fear was I was going to have nothing after graduation. So I applied to like 50 different things, and it came down to the Peace Corps, going to Rwanda, Fulbright, going to Taiwan, or ACE, going to St. Petersburg, Florida. And that was an extremely difficult decision that I had to make in like a week. So I was just, thinking, worrying, talking to different people that I, trusted and went to for advice. And what ultimately swayed the decision to ACE was, I had thinking about the people who had most impacted me. It was my teachers, and it was Catholic education. And I thought it would be a tremendous opportunity to give back, and then also a tremendous opportunity for me to learn whether teaching would be a fit. And then certainly, if the political and public policy aspirations that I had for myself, again, going off of Kelly's point, it would be great to have firsthand experience of the classroom to relate to. And so I took the plunge, and it was funny because I was just looking. I still have the voicemail. I probably can't see it, from John Schoenig on 3/12/15 when he called me to say I got into ACE. So I have somehow saved that, even though it's 5 years later. So it's been a good decision since then.
That's awesome. Thank you all for kind of sharing that experience. So, want to shift gears a little bit and think about now in this transition beyond ACE. And Kelly and Bobby, you kind of mentioned this in your own responses, of just thinking about takeaways from your ACE experience or things that you learned in ACE that continue to impact the work that you do on a daily basis. So maybe you could just share a little bit of how you feel like your ACE experience is still very much tied to what you're doing now.
I can take the first crack at that. So I was assigned to St. Petersburg, Florida, or Stampa. Mike Comunello was part of that as well. So it's a great community, two communities if you can get there. So I was a high school teacher for 2 years, and I went to Taiwan for a year to teach English. Came back, and when I was coming back, I was looking, okay, what do I want to do? I was looking at teaching. I was looking at politics and public policy. And so I reached out to ACE in Notre Dame. Obviously, that's a great career resource that you get access to if you're part of this program. And there's great people at ACE who have a lot of connections. And so they said, there's this really interesting organization called Empower Illinois in the state of Illinois, and it's just started and it needs good people. And I said, okay, sounds interesting. And they put me in touch, and the rest is kind of history. I've been here for 2.5 years. And the teaching experience of ACE has really made me a really great fit for what I do now, which is essentially advocating for school choice in the state of Illinois, and then also raising money to fund the scholarships. And so my personal background in Florida with a state that had these scholarships, and having students in class on those scholarships, really made it personal and really made me realize the impact. And then if you have any experience with grade schools or Catholic high schools, the fundraising and enrollment struggles are constant. That's something that they're constantly having to work on. And so programs like what I am doing hopefully address those issues so that these schools can expand and thrive, especially for poor and working class people.
I'll go next. I was waiting to see if anyone else was hopping in. So I actually going into ACE, my plan was to transition out of the classroom after my 2 years in Brownsville, and I ended up just falling in love with teaching. So that was a huge shock to me. Kind of in that second year, ACE does a great job of helping you discern your next steps, and so in kind of thinking and praying about what I wanted to do, I really was surprised with truly my plan was to move to DC and work in policy. And I moved to DC, but I went back in the classroom. And I think part of that was just teaching leaves such a mark on your heart. Like even now that I'm not necessarily in the classroom, I try to spend as much time as a principal in my teachers' classrooms just because I miss that joy of learning. So I think so there are a few things here with ACE. It really forms you as a person. It's more than just a grad school program. And that's what I think, is such a benefit is you come out of it with a master's, but at the same time, it really was 2 years after undergrad where I really found out who I was. Not that I'm still continuing to learn, but at the same time, I think that, some one of the best benefits in my mind is just if you go in with an open heart, you'll just be so surprised where this journey takes you. As far as how I use my what I learned in ACE in my current job, it shapes everything that I do. So going from one under-resourced Catholic school to the next, there are a lot of similarities. As Bobby mentioned, enrollment and fundraising is always a struggle, but knowing that from that experience from my ACE school and even from the next school that I was at in DC to now as a principal at a super under resourced school, there are a lot of parallels. There's Catholic schools are special and they're special across the country, but there are a lot of things that cultures can change, but just that kind of presence of being in a Catholic classroom is kind of what binds all of them together. So I certainly, yes, being, in urban Philly is different from teaching at a small little school on the US Mexico border, but I would say the skills that I learned as a teacher apply to the classroom, kind of the managing a lot of things at once and not having a lot of time to yourself and trying to figure out how to balance everything. You learn that in ACE really quickly if you don't already have that mastered from undergrad. But again, there's just so many personal but also professional skills that are transferable to really any job. And again, you might have a plan right now what you want to do coming out of undergrad, but I would just my one of my pieces of advice is just be open to seeing how the Lord's working in you in the next 2 years.
I can hop in next. In my classroom, I loved getting to make a difference in the lives of my students who are in the classroom, whether it was through the simple things of just showing up every day and trying to love them as best as I could, or through, like trying to help them see the glories of literature and understand how to correctly punctuate sentences, whatever it was. Um, but at the end of the day, I realized I really wanted to be able to impact not just like the students who I got to know personally in my classroom, but also the rest of the students in the school and actually the students in the diocese and just all the students in the system. And so realizing that as much as I valued that like boots on the ground experience and getting to actually see the kids and be with the kids, I really wanted to work at a more systemic level is what led me into policy and being able to kind of say, okay, we know that these are some like changes that need made, or these are some barriers that need removed in order to help more students access education. How can we look at those from the higher up level? But now that I'm here, kind of at the more thinking level rather than the doing level, I'm so grateful for my experience in the classroom because it provides a really valuable check to ideas that might otherwise be too idealistic or too abstract. And sitting down and thinking about like, okay, when I was in the classroom, if someone came to me and said, we're going to have you do XYZ thing, how would I have felt about that? Really helps remind you that at the end of the day, like the people sitting in rooms talking in DC or the policymakers or whatever it is, they need kind of the feedback from those who are actually doing the thing to and actually implementing the policy to think about how they're doing the policy. So 2 years almost feels like not enough to be out here saying like, oh yeah, I have experience, but it is also invaluable experience. And I see in so many different ways how that's a strength that I bring to my team that a lot of my coworkers who have come from working in other government positions or just straight from undergrad don't have. And it gives you a lot of kind of weight and authority behind your voice and your opinion, which is nice. And echoing what Kelly said about those transferable skills from ACE to the workplace, I think, and this is actually something that Kelly's husband said to me because he used to work where I'm working. Something that you really appreciate is that when you're a teacher, you have complete ownership over what you're doing in a classroom in a way that very few people our age get to experience. Like at the end of the day, if you don't make the lesson plan, you don't make the lesson plan. And there's kind of like that negative side to it. But also there's the positive of like, you are running that show. And having that kind of responsibility and also the duties that come along with it, and understanding like with that power, you have a whole lot of skin in the game is just so helpful for being a go getter in the workplace and being given responsibility and feeling comfortable running with it, along with all of the things like being detail oriented and understanding what a long term plan looks like and things like that that come along with it. So I feel like whether or not you're like, yes, I want to be a teacher, I think that having the experience of teaching, if you're even remotely interested in education, is invaluable.
Well, I don't want to be too repetitive, and not sure I have much to add. They have some great answers, but I think the one thing I reflect on the most as a principal is obviously the coursework informs everything I do each day, and making sure that we're student focused at our school. But I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from my ACE experience that maybe hasn't been shared yet is the ability to enter into discomfort. Um, uh, I was very planned out in college. I was very type A personality, and I was thrown into situations in ACE that made me very uncomfortable that I didn't know. I didn't feel fully equipped for at times. I wasn't prepared to face the challenges, of the stories that kids are going to share with me, and how do I respond appropriately in that moment. And so I think it was 2 years of being put into these situations time and time again, moving into a convent that, I didn't pick my roommates, moving to Jacksonville that I had no say in, moving into a school and entering that community and getting to know the lives of the other teachers and the students, and just constantly being put into situations that challenged me to rethink my views on life, and kind of grow as an individual, and kind of that formation piece that Kelly talked about. Um, and really, that has helped me so much as a principal. Every day I wake up and I really don't know what I'm going to face each day. I have a to-do list. I have, my big three that I want to accomplish at the school, or whatever it is. I've got those plans, but you don't know what you're going to walk into. I had a teacher who planned Catholic Schools Week, and during the planning process, her husband had a heart attack and passed away. So you don't see that coming as a principal, and how do you, as someone who's younger than these people, and how do you just be there in that moment if you haven't experienced some of that discomfort before? And so I think the biggest thing for me that maybe hasn't been shared, but I'm sure they all can share as well, but that just ability to respond to people and their needs in moments of hardship, discomfort, and things that maybe you don't feel equipped for. But ACE definitely gives you that experience and kind of that confidence to know that whatever is thrown our way, and with the grace of God, we'll get through it. So that's kind of my 2 cents on how it informs me still to this day.
We're almost just at time. If you didn't have a chance to ask your question, if you want to chat it to me now, I'll make sure we get a response to you, or I'll connect you with one of our panelists to follow up. So feel free to do that. I do want to invite Anna Bussey, who works on ACE's program for educational access, to just share a little bit about the program and some of the work they do before I offer just some closing thoughts with our panel.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. My name is Anna Bussey. I was in ACE 24 in Corpus Christi, Texas. I taught middle school social studies, and now I'm back. As Bridge said, I work with the Program for Educational Access, which is like ACE's education policy group. We work on a lot of different things. So we work with bishops and archbishops all across the country. We work closely with Empower Illinois, where Bobby Sylvester works. We work with Step Up for Students in Tampa. But the biggest thing that we do that you all might be interested in is called the Reform Leaders Summit. And I think all four of our panelists at some point have been involved with the Reform Leaders Summit. The goal of the Reform Leaders Summit is to build connective tissue between people in all strata of the education atmosphere, to try to get people to work together to advance public policy goals that support Catholic schools and Catholic school students. It's a fantastic program. We do 3 immersion weekend trips every year, and we get to bring just really bright minds together. to talk about how we can better support Catholic schools and Catholic school students. So happy to talk to anyone a little bit more who might want to learn more about that, and just really grateful for our panelists and all the work that they do for Catholic schools. So thanks so much, guys.
Thanks so much, Anna. So just a closing question. If you have any words of advice, we have a lot of students on the call that are discerning this path to ACE. Anything that was helpful for you, anything you would suggest that they do, just to close out our time together.
I can go. So if you want to totally completely take a cannonball into the deep end of the pool, do ACE, but you will never regret it. I often felt like, I was like, how intense is ACE? Like dipping your toe in the pool, or like kind of trying to get a feel for it. And no, it is fully all encompassing, but you also in no way will regret doing ACE. You'll come out as a better person for it, a smarter person, a more well-rounded person, a more considerate, caring person. In so many ways it shapes you. So if you are up for the challenge, it will truly could be the best thing you ever did.
Going off of what Kelly said, I think she really hit the nail on the head. It's an intense thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing, but it is an intense thing. And so the other thing I would say to anyone who's thinking about the program, you want to make sure that you're looking at all of the pillars. That ACE is more than just the teaching and the classroom stuff. There's certainly the community aspect, the faith aspect, spirituality aspect. So definitely just make sure that you're aware of those and you're willing to enter in on all three of those. That's, I think, really key to having a great ACE experience is being open to the experience of all three of those things.
I definitely recommend talking to people who have done the program. So just by signing up on this call, you're already doing that to some degree. But as much as you can, talking to different individuals who have done it, and seeing like, what do I think about their experience? Like, am I finding a lot of commonalities of what they're driven by and what I'm driven by? Am I drawn to the type of people that they are? That was really helpful for me in deciding, yes, this is where I want to go, to be formed in that way, kind of along the lines of what Kelly was saying, because you will be formed into a better person.
I think my only remaining piece of advice would be to surround yourself with people who believe in you. I think I would have never done ACE. I would have never done the Marian Remick Leadership Program. I would have never become a principal if I didn't trust people who believed in me and leaned on them. So whoever that may be in your life, a professor, a friend, a family member, colleague, really trust them because they're believing in you, and you can do great things with their support. So I think that was something that I think is big for me, and also like Tracy said, think about kind of who you surround yourself and spend your time with, and don't be afraid to ask questions of people. It's awesome that you all are here tonight. If any of you want to ask more questions about what's it like to be a principal or a teacher, Bridget can give you my email or phone number. I'm really available to people. Because I know for myself, I had to ask lots of questions. I went on several walks or lunch dates with professors trying to be like, okay, is this really what I want to do? So, don't be afraid to ask people as well what they think.
That's great, and a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us tonight. I know we're all muted right now, but if you want to put up a thumbs up or a clap emoji in your Zoom box and just join me in thanking them for giving up their time and insights to be together. So we are really grateful to all of you also for tuning in and hope to see you at our upcoming Where ACE Takes You event. We'll be back next Wednesday with further graduate studies at the same time. So hope to see you there. But thank you all so much. And I'll be following up with the folks that sent me some messages in the chat tomorrow. So take care, everyone.